The breeze carried the scent of grilled burgers and fresh-cut grass across Sunnyvale Heights that Saturday afternoon. The kind of perfect suburban day the HOA board loved to brag about in their monthly newsletters. I stepped out of my sedan with a glass casserole dish balanced like it was diplomatic gold. My potato salad from scratch sitting proudly next to the store-bought trays everyone else brought. The driveway of Grandpa Harlan's ranch-style home hadn't changed in 20 years. Same slight slope. Same faint oil stain from decades of tinkering. Everything felt familiar except the knot tightening in my stomach the moment I spotted the classic vehicles. Aesthetic ordinance in force sign freshly planted at the curb. HOA President Karen Langley had struck again. Inside the community clubhouse, the air hummed with forced laughter and the low twang of country radio. Karen was in the kitchen, barking orders in that honey-dripped voice she reserved for when she wanted control to sound like kindness. Her husband Corbin, the board treasurer, manned the grill like it was a TED Talk on neighborhood superiority, tongs in one hand, craft beer in the other. "Look who finally showed up," Karen chirped the second she saw me, her smile never reaching her eyes. "Late as usual, Luisa." Some of us actually follow the event start time rule. You know, I set the salad down beside a tray labeled homemade in someone else's handwriting. "Good to see you too, Karen," I said, keeping my tone even. Corbin called over. "You brought the magic again. Grandpa's been asking about your potato salad since last summer." That man could make a compliment sound like a threat wrapped in flannel. Grandpa Harlan sat on the patio in his faded Adirondack chair, crocheted cushion beneath him, nodding along to conversations he probably wasn't fully hearing anymore. He looked smaller than I remembered, shoulders curved under the weight of too many for the community lectures. I bent to kiss his cheek. "How's my favorite rule breaker?" He chuckled softly. "Still kicking, barely steering." His eyes flicked toward the garage across the street, where his 1970 Chevy Chevelle, cherry red, chrome shining like it was still 1970, had lived for 40 years. Something about that glance made my stomach shift. I brushed it off. Maybe it was nothing. But in Sunnyvale Heights, nothing was ever just nothing. Plates were filled potluck style under the striped awning. Casseroles and dips that all tasted suspiciously like the same seasoning packet. Forks clinked, lawn chairs creaked, and everyone wore the same overeager smiles. Halfway through the meal, Karen stood, cleared her throat with theatrical precision, and tapped her wine glass with a fork. The chatter froze. "Friends, this community is everything," she announced, voice pitch just loud enough to command attention. "And it's time we did something big for us, together." Gasps rippled. She continued, syrupy sweet. "What if we created a memory? A once-in-a-lifetime residence appreciation trip to Hawaii. Full beachfront villas, spa days, the works." Murmurs of excitement. Corbin nodded vigorously. "And we found the perfect way to fund it without raising a single assessment fee. Grandpa Harlan's classic car. It's been sitting there collecting dust, and honestly, it violates our new aesthetic ordinance anyway. No vintage vehicles visible from the street. We sell it. Use the proceeds for the boards, sorry. The community's trip. He'd be giving us something unforgettable." I felt my fork hover midair. Grandpa blinked, mouth twitching into a polite, confused smile. "It sounds lovely," he said quietly. Karen leaned in, placing a manicured hand on his shoulder. "It's a gift to the whole neighborhood. Harlan, a legacy. We'll handle every single detail. You won't lift a finger." Corbin added, "Stress-free, just like the HOA promises." I didn't speak. Not yet. But inside, I was already clenching. The rest of the afternoon blurred into lawn chair gossip about whose grass was 0.2 inches too long and who dared hang the wrong color wind chime. Karen floated between groups, reminding everyone, rules keep us beautiful. By dusk, the yard quieted. Kids waved glow sticks. Couples shared folding chairs. I slipped onto the porch swing with a paper plate of cake and let my eyes drift back to Grandpa's garage. When I was 13, he taught me how to wax that Chevelle under the same porch light. "This isn't just a car. Sweetheart," he'd said. "It's the one thing I never let anyone touch but your grandmother and you." It was never about the engine. It was about what stayed still while everything else changed. That night, after the last guest left and the clubhouse lights dimmed, I walked across the street. The garage door was closed, but I knew. I pulled the string on the overhead bulb. Empty. Just oil-stained concrete and the folding chair Grandpa used to sit in while polishing chrome. The keys still hung on the hook. His scratched keychain reading "This Grandpa runs on hugs and horsepower," dangling like a cruel joke. They hadn't even bothered to take the keys. The space felt hollow, like someone had carved out a piece of his soul and called it community improvement. That car wasn't metal and paint. It was family, and Karen had taken it like it was junk. Back inside Grandpa's house, the rooms had cooled. Corbin and Karen were in the kitchen laughing about villa upgrades. I didn't speak to them. I found Grandpa in his recliner, remote in hand, flipping between channels. "Grandpa," I said softly, kneeling beside him, "did you sell the Chevelle today?" He blinked slowly. "HM? Oh, I signed some papers. They said it would make things easier for everyone." His smile was uncertain, waiting for my reaction. Did I do something wrong? I shook my head, forcing calm. "No, Grandpa, not at all." But my heart had already left the room. Later, when the house settled, I slipped into the kitchen. The printer tray was still warm. Under a stack of medical alert catalogs, I found the bill of sale. Buyer, Sunnyvale Heights, HOA Special Fund. Seller, Harlan Jennings. The signature at the bottom was shaky, but the loop on the J was too narrow. The H lacked his familiar slant. Not his. I laid it beside the original 1970 registration I'd pulled from the file cabinet earlier. Names Harlan and Mina Jennings side by side like they always belonged. The difference screamed forgery. This wasn't miscommunication. This was theft dressed in pastel pantsuits, and for the community smiles. My hands didn't shake when I snapped photos front, back, close-ups of the signature. I emailed them to myself. Labeled Chevelle Evidence. Insurance. 5 years ago, Karen had cornered Grandpa at Thanksgiving with a glossy HOA brochure about modernizing the neighborhood. He'd politely declined. Now the payoff had arrived. I slid the papers into my nursing bag, the same one that carried stethoscopes and EKG leads. Tonight, it carried truth. Outside on the back porch, under the flickering amber light, I whispered into the darkness. They just declared war on the wrong granddaughter. The next morning, the smell of bacon hit like theater. Corbin flipped pancakes, humming. Karen scrolled resort photos on her phone. Kauai or Maui. Full beachfront. Private villa. Dad really came through for the board. She shot Corbin a conspiratorial look. Grandpa stirred his coffee quietly at the table. I stood in the doorway watching them perform. Karen pulled out a jewelry box, holding up a dainty gold surfboard necklace engraved from the HOA with love. "He gave it for all of us," she said when she caught my stare. "Let's not guilt-trip community spirit." I set my mug down slowly. "You mean you tricked him, forged his name, and now you're wearing the receipt?" The kitchen air thickened. Karen's smile faltered for half a second. Grandpa looked puzzled, but said nothing. I excused myself, needing air. Outside, I sat on the bench beside Grandpa's dusty toolbox and scrolled through the photos I'd taken. I created a cloud folder labeled Grandpa Harlan Legal. Then I texted the Elder Protection Hotline. "Can we talk about power of attorney and possible financial exploitation today?" They were too comfortable. That was their mistake. When I came back inside, breakfast was stacked like a commercial. Everyone pretended again. As I passed Corbin, I whispered just loud enough, "You might want to delete your emails faster." His hand froze over the syrup. Karen turned. Excuse me. I faced them both. Voice calm. Not yet. But consider this a courtesy. Their silence was deafening. They weren't scared. They were getting cocky. I found them in the living room, scrolling resort options. Oceanfront cabana upgrades. We've earned it, Corbin said. Grandpa's TV murmured a nature documentary in the background. He wasn't watching. He was staring out the window, lost. I walked in deliberately and placed the original registration and the forged bill of sale on the coffee table. Look at these, I said evenly. Karen sighed. Really? It's already done. Corbin leaned back. If this is another guilt crusade, save it. You're not even on the deed to his house. Karen tossed her phone aside. What are you trying to do? Tear the neighborhood apart over a car? This isn't about the car, I replied. This is about consent. Dignity. Theft. Grandpa shuffled in. What's going on? Karen rushed to him. Nothing. Harland. Just a little misunderstanding. You know how Lisa gets. I cut in gently. They didn't tell you everything. Grandpa. They never planned to include you. You were the funding. The tension snapped. Karen stomped into the kitchen. I picked up the documents, folding them neatly. This is your only chance to come clean. If you don't, I will publicly. Corbin's jaw tightened. Is that a threat? No, I said, slipping the envelope into my bag. It's a guarantee. Around 2 that afternoon, Karen's post popped up on the community Facebook group like slap. A bright photo from the barbecue. Everyone lined up, smiling. Grandpa blurry and off to the side. Caption, blessed by a generous neighbor's gift. Family first. Always. Hawaii. Here the board comes. Comments flooded in. So generous. Perfect community. What a dream trip. I took screenshots. Added them to the evidence folder. This wasn't deceit. It was theater. And they were performing for an audience that didn't know the curtains were soaked in betrayal. My phone buzzed. A group text between Karen, Corbin, and a few board members. Corbin booked the villa. Full beachfront. Spa day non-negotiable. Not one mention of Grandpa. I stepped back into the living room where they sipped lemonade like saints. So, you took his car, forged his signature, and now you're taking his place in his own story, I said sharply. Corbin looked up slowly. Why make this harder than it needs to be? Grandpa shuffled and holding a grocery list. Does anyone need anything from the store? Karen smiled sweetly. No. Harland. We're all good. The second face. The performance. Later I found Grandpa on the porch swing. Hey, I said, sitting beside him. Do you still want to go to Hawaii? He smiled but didn't meet my eyes. I never thought I was going. That sentence landed harder than any insult. Inside, my phone vibrated. Text from my bank contact. Transfer confirmed. $43,000. Not in Mr. Harland's account. Moved to HOA, a special fund under Karen L. I printed the confirmation, folded it, placed the envelope in the center of the dining table between 2 water glasses. When Karen and Corbin returned from the backyard, their laughter froze. Karen opened the envelope, read the page, and let out a dry laugh. You're really doing this? I didn't flinch. No, I already did. And now I'm about to do more. Corbin watched me with calculated stillness. I turned, pulled out my phone, and tapped the number I'd saved weeks ago. Legal options, elder protection. The call connected. Hi. Yes, I have documentation related to financial exploitation of a senior citizen. I'm ready to file a formal complaint. As I closed the guest room door, something shifted. I wasn't just fighting for a car. I was fighting to remind them silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Sunday afternoon arrived with false calm. The air felt too still. No response to the legal notice I'd sent Karen the day before. Just silence, their favorite weapon. I made a call. Good afternoon. Markley Auto Sales. Hi, I said chipper. I'm calling on behalf of Karen Langley, following up on the Chevelle paperwork. She wanted to confirm everything was finalized. The salesman chuckled. Oh yeah, smooth transaction. She told us the old man wasn't involved, just handle logistics herself. Looked legit. I saved the recording. Verbal confirmation. Nailed. Karen found me in the hallway 20 minutes later. I hope you're enjoying your little detective game, she said. Syrup-laced malice perfected over years of finding neighbors for wrong flower colors. I didn't blink. You'll get the results soon enough. Corbin's text came seconds later. If you think you're getting a penny from his estate, think again. I forwarded it directly to the elder protection caseworker. Their reply, summons being prepared. You'll be copied. By dinner, the tension could crack granite. Karen lit candles for healing and moving forward. Corbin passed napkins like he was hosting a dinner party, not facing investigation. Grandpa buttered a roll quietly. I stood before anyone could toast. I like to read something first. I passed printed copies of the email chain down the table. Karen's voice pitched too high. Vesa, don't ruin this evening again. No more evenings, I said. No more silence. You used his name. You sold his memory. And now the evidence speaks. Grandpa squinted at the page. They did what? I sat beside him. You trusted them, but they never intended to include you. You were the funding. Karen shoved her chair back. You can't do this. Corbin stayed seated. This won't hold up. He signed. I slid the final document across the table onto his plate. This is your official notification. Mediation hearing next Thursday. You've been served. A knock echoed. Karen's eyes widened. You invited someone here? I opened the door for the mediator from the elder legal support group. She stepped in calmly. I'm here to confirm service of documents for Karen Langley and Corbin Langley in accordance with state elder protection statutes. Corbin stood, jaw clenched. This is harassment. This is overdue, I replied. Grandpa blinked. Did I sign something I shouldn't have? No, I said gently. Someone else did for you. The roast chicken sat untouched. Karen's mascara smudged. Corbin's smugness drained. You thought I was going to scream, I said softly. Instead, I built a case. 3 days after the confrontation, the house felt hollow. Karen and Corbin had left a note about taking space to clear the air. Their absence didn't warm the place. It made the walls feel abandoned. Grandpa barely spoke. He puttered in the garden, trimming already dead hydrangea stems with more patience than purpose. I brought him water and sat on the back steps. Did I really lose the blue one? He asked, not looking up. I thought I still had it. My throat tightened. You didn't lose it. Grandpa. Someone took it. He nodded slowly. No shock, just tired acknowledgement. Later he pulled out the old photo album with duct tape spine. Photos of him and Grandma Mina beside the Chevelle in matching windbreakers, laughing like they owned the world. He paused on their anniversary shot. She always said that car would outlive us both, he murmured. He looked smaller, emotionally faded from his own story. He wrote her name across a blank page in his notebook, then turned it to me. Who's this? I placed my hand over his and closed the book. This wasn't about a car. It was about dignity, about the slow erasure of a man who'd built things only to be dismantled by the people who swore to protect the neighborhood. That afternoon, I copied every file, every photo, every email onto a flash drive and mailed it to the county office without a return address. Not for revenge, because truth deserved to outlast memory. That evening, Grandpa and I sat on the porch. The wind brushed through the trees. He took my hand. Thank you for staying. I don't remember everything, but I remember that. I squeezed his fingers. Then that's all we need for now. The court date loomed, but justice wasn't the only thing waiting. Friday morning, the courthouse stood like a monument to silence. I helped Grandpa out of the car. He wore his best wool coat, standing taller than I'd seen in weeks. Karen and Corbin were already seated, Karen in oversized sunglasses, Corbin in a slick suit. They didn't look at me. In the mediation room, white walls, oval table, Copier toner smell. The mediator began. Today's matter concerns allegations of misrepresentation and financial exploitation of a vulnerable elder. Karen leaned forward. None of this holds up. He signed willingly. Corbin crossed his arms. This is a neighborhood matter being blown out of proportion. I opened my folder and laid out the evidence like a quiet storm. Original 1970 title. Forged bill of sale. Transcript of the dealership call, where Karen claimed Grandpa wasn't involved. Bank records showing $43,000 moved to the HOA special fund that somehow became their personal account. And finally the email, "Don't worry. The old man won't even know. His granddaughter is a bleeding heart, but harmless." The mediator read each page slowly. Karen's knee bounced. Corbin's confidence cracked. "The facts are sufficient," the mediator said. "The court finds deceptive practices. You are ordered to return the full sum to Mr. Harlan Jennings. Both parties removed from any financial documentation involving him. A formal note of elder exploitation will be filed in public record." Karen gasped. "He's our neighbor." The mediator continued unfazed. "Furthermore, the HOA board president position is hereby suspended pending full investigation." Corbin stood. "You did this to your own community?" I looked at him. "No, you did. I just gave a name." We exited in silence. Reporters waited outside. I shielded Grandpa from flashes. Back at the car, he gripped the door. "You didn't have to go through all that for me." I smiled. "You taught me never to walk past a lie like it's normal." What came after wasn't revenge. It was rebuilding. A week later, the house found a new rhythm. Quiet. Earned. Grandpa clipped brown edges off rose petals with hands that moved slower, but still knew exactly where to press. A letter slid through the mail slot, Corbin's handwriting. I opened it first. Birthday card with a golf joke and a vague, "We all made mistakes. Let's move on." Grandpa read it once. Folded it face down. "Not today," he said simply, then went back to watering hibiscus. Later, I found a drawer in his bedroom labeled "Returned Letters." Dozens of unopened cards from Karen and Corbin stacked like regrets. "Do you ever want to read them?" I asked. He didn't look up. If they needed to be read, they would have come in person. That was when I realized he wasn't holding anger. He was holding on to the little piece of himself they hadn't managed to take. That Sunday, I went to the community center watercolor class Grandpa had signed me up for. He'd insisted I go alone. The woman beside me had warm eyes like Grandma's. We painted yellow tulips. When it was my turn, I shared what Grandpa once told me. Yellow tulips mean hope, not joy. Hope survives storms. The instructor nodded. "That's the most honest thing I've heard in here." I left with pain on my wrists and something softer in my chest. At home, Grandpa dozed on the porch, mystery novel on his chest. I sat beside him and read aloud the last pages. A neighbor strolled by. "You two look like a painting." I smiled. I didn't need to answer. We were finally building something new. That night, I opened my laptop and clicked the tab I'd left untouched. Application for Masters in Gerontology at Oregon State. I filled every field, uploaded transcripts, hovered over submit. I glanced toward Grandpa's room where the nightlight cast his shadow. I didn't need Karen's apology. I didn't need their forgiveness. I needed to forgive myself for staying silent too long. I clicked submit. But before I closed the laptop, I knew there was one more thing. The legal office smelled of old paper and furniture polish. Grandpa sat beside me in a freshly pressed shirt. "Are you sure?" "Harlan," the attorney asked. Grandpa nodded. I gave them everything. Then they asked for more. We reviewed the revised estate documents line by line. No loopholes. When he signed, his hand was steady, like a declaration. I slid the notarized copy of Karen's email to the elder abuse board. "Attach it," I said. "Let the record reflect what happened for anyone who ever looks." By afternoon, Karen's name appeared on the state's restricted list. She could never serve in any fiduciary capacity again. A week later, the local paper ran the story on page 2. Granddaughter defends elder from HOA exploitation. Legal precedent set. The photo showed Grandpa in his coat. Me beside him. Chin high. Karen posted on Facebook. Family drama isn't justice. Some people just like attention. Her comment section stayed quiet. Corbin's business lost 2 contracts. One neighbor stopped waving. Another asked if the rumors were true. I just smiled and kept walking. This isn't about shame. I told Grandpa as we sorted seed packets in the garage. It's about clarity. He tapped a tulip bulb. Truth like that doesn't shout. It just shines. One afternoon, I missed a call from Karen. The voicemail was short. Can we just talk? Grandpa overheard. Will you call her back? I folded the phone in my palm. Not today. Maybe not ever. I had forgiven them the moment I stopped needing anything from them. That night, I opened the flash drive again. I rewatched the video of the Chevelle being towed out of the garage, the one the dealership had sent Karen as proof of completion. This time I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I just watched. The next morning the letter arrived. Dear MS. Jennings, congratulations. You have been accepted into the master's program in gerontology. Fall semester. My breath caught, but I didn't let it linger. I walked outside, letter in hand. Grandpa was watering yellow tulips in the side garden. Petals stretched toward the sun like they'd survived more than one storm. He looked up and smiled. That for you or me? Both, I said. We sat on a bench by the shed, watching bees work like nothing had gone wrong. I pulled out the framed photo I'd kept tucked away, Grandpa and Grandma, beside the Chevelle, arms around each other, smiles unguarded. I placed it on a small shelf inside the shed next to a jar of old nails and a dusty wrench. Then I hung the sign I'd painted the night before. Some memories don't fade. Some legacies begin again. As we sat there, quiet and whole, Grandpa reached over and took my hand. You didn't just protect me, he said. You taught me how to protect myself. I hadn't just fought for what was stolen. I had built something stronger in its place, and that would outlive them all. The end.